Alright, let's see if things change all that beating I just did. Having a shaft in a hole makes a difference. Okay. Double check. Appears to be the same. Nothing bent. 3/4 inch. Break the nuts free. I can pull a shift fork shaft out. Take your 2 bushings up so you don't lose them. Okay, this is our low gear one. So the fork needs to go that way. So we need to take shims out of this side and put them back on this side. So there's a little dog tab in here you gotta be in. So just take these apart. Stack all your parts down here on the table as you come apart. So it's all the same dimension. Okay, I already forgot which way I had to go though, so put it back on the bike. So we need to remove shims on this left side to move it to the left side of the tranny, because we're looking at it backwards. Parts don't want to come apart. So your lock tab comes off first. Appears there's no shims on this side. Bunch of shims on that side. Okay, so that comes off. Big stack of shims are following you. Now you got 2 lock tabs, 2 grooves here, so the groove goes on the bottom. Pick a shim, you got thick ones and thin ones usually in here. So pull out thicker. Thick ones don't bend as easy as the thin ones. It's one way of telling pretty quickly what you're doing. Put it back together. These aren't so tight. We have to fight them so much, but oh well. Okay. I put it back up in the tranny. Put it back correctly, it'll go right back together where it belongs. Looks good. Okay, now this one here, we need to move it the opposite way, so we need to take shims out of this side and put them over on this side, which is the opposite we did before, because this one is put in the opposite direction. And we have no shims to work with here. Great. So we have no shims here to play with. Usually there's a bunch of shims to work with. This one has none. Well, I know there's an extra one we can steal from right over here. We have one we just put over here on this other side we're not needing, so theoretically. I'm going to put that back on that one. Or I could sell them some new shims. As you don't sell anybody anything until they need it. So now, we add this extra shim in there. Put it back together. Scooby, why are you snoring so much? Scooby's down there making noise. Scooby, are you snoring? Yeah, you. That's right. I'm talking about you again. Oh, now he's up. Oh, you got a big stretch in there? Did I wake you up? I woke up Scooby. There he goes. He can go back to his bed now. He'll go snore over there in the corner. Go over to his den. Alright. Let's put this all back together. Take your wrench and tighten it back up. Not doing full torque, but we are torquing it. Okay, there's our tool at. Okay, now we check it again and see what happened. Hopefully everything is now put back where it belongs. Okay, let's check our clearance this way. So you can see the gap right there. Go the other way and we still got quite a bit of gap. She'll be back. There we go. Looks like I didn't do very much. Did I even move it? I moved it, but it's right back where it started because things flux differently or something. So the change got contradicted by something else. Okay, I've got to make sure the high gear is all the way over, so I just slid it over. So you look at the gap now between high gear and dog, it looks a little bit better. This one over here I can't see anything, so got to rotate things around until they line up again. Still got a decent gap right there. Gear keeps moving. Alright, so you see the gap right down right there the screwdriver is. Versus the other side over here, which it's hard to see because it's dark as hell in there. But if you do that, can you see now? It's a little close to this side, but I'd rather be that side than the other side. So I think that one's alright. Now this one over here, not sure why it's so far off. Okay, get your clearance right there, a little bit better than a screwdriver. See, it's a little closer right here, pretty close. Still one shim off. This one over here looks a lot closer. It's really hard to see in there though, which is a problem that always is on doing these jobs. You're always working in the dark where you can't see a damn thing. Trying to see with the camera light doesn't help because the light doesn't line up with the lens. Alright. Get all this crap out of the way I can see in here. One way of doing it, you can tell if you can't see any, you use feeler gauges. And you can tell with the feeler gauge what's really happening. Feeler gauge does not lie. Well, this one needs to be moved over, I know that. So. Go ahead and move it over. Yeah. There it goes. He just wants to fight. Okay, there's a thin shim and a thick shim. I'm taking out the thin one. These nuts are hollow cut to go over the shaft on this side, so make sure you put the nut in there correctly. Tight. Those get loose up frequently if you don't tighten down real good. So you got to tighten them tight. Okay, put this back on. That looks a little closer. Put that there. Now you have a gap right there. You go to the other side, and see you have a gap there. So it's about equal now on this one here. Looks good. This one down here, it's hard to see in there as usual. Put this thing in gear. Or let me put it in gear. Gotta find a spot where these two gear dogs are 180 from each other, or right across. Gotta rotate it a few times to get where I want it to be. Dogs never line up with each other like I want them to be. Okay, there we go, right there. Okay, pull the gear over with your thumb so I can move the gear over. Okay, so I got the two spots lined up we can kind of see. First thing to do is check this one right there. You can see the gap right there with a screwdriver. It's more than the thickness of the blade. check on the other side. It's a shadow, so I can't see in there. And it looks about the same. Like the 35-40 thou gap. You go on the other side over here, and you can see it's about the same gap there. So you're looking at a high spot of the dog and a high spot of the gear. The gear's tapered cut, the dog's tapered cut. So you gotta make sure the highs are against the highs. Same on this side here, high against high. So that looks pretty even to me. And this side here looks pretty even over here. So I think we're good to go. Alright. So I think we're all good. So I'm going to double check my torque and I'm going to put the locks over. Instead of beating on them, we use a pair of channel locks to squeeze them in. I already had these torqued pretty good, but we'll go ahead and check the torque anyway. It's pretty tight. It's pretty tight. So you try to squeeze with a pair of channel locks that we don't have to beat on the fork, which can change things on you. That one down. That one's down. Alright, so we roll that one down and this one down, so no binding. Now these stick out over here, it doesn't hurt anything. If these are sticking up here, it can rub on here and cause a problem. So you always want to make sure these top ones are rolled down at least enough they're below the height of this bushing right here. So if you go like this, you want to make sure the dog is below the height of that. If it is, it will not rub on this, because these bushings here rub right on top of here with a little bit of clearance. So as long as that tab is below that, you won't hit. If they're above that, they'll hit and cause problems. So you just got to make sure you do all that. Alright, a piece of crap right there. Alright, we'll be right back.